Greetings, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me and see me before I continue talking. For now, while I wait for you to confirm that, I will begin my introductions. I am Aurora. I am the founder of A.U.R.A Hypnosis Healing, and I channel the Galactics, which are the benevolent beings of the universe. I am also the author to Galactic Soul History of the Universe. That is 740 pages that goes through sharing galactic journeys of a total of about 38 chapters of past life regressions where they go through the history of the universe. Sharing things that we knew that were real or could remember parts of it, and they confirm and so activate us in so many ways as they are higher self-expressions. Thank you. You confirm. Thank you. Wonderful. Now, today, as you have seen, our title is Galactic War on Consciousness. And before I begin with that, you can find me under risingphoenixaurora.com, as well as you can purchase this book one under Amazon, under your perspective nation. So if you're from Australia, you would purchase it from your Australian Amazon. Thank you. And don't forget to write a review. All right, let's begin. It is such an honor to be here with you all. I know that these times have been rough in many ways, however, have been very awakening and activating as well. There is much we want to share today, and we also have questions that you all have already written under my Patreon as well as my Facebook page. We'll be answering those questions, and if you haven't had a chance to ask a question yet, please write it in chat. We'll ensure to cover as many as possible. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's begin. So let's begin. I won't be using full names. I'll be using coding because I am on YouTube, and you know how they are censoring people. Okay, so I'll be flowing with it divinely. All right. Now, going into what's occurring in the now. We know who truly was elected. T was elected. The collective decided it. That's what we decided. Now we know the outcome and how negative technologies, as well as plain and simple cheating, has turned into what it is now, right? And what we can tell you, an update on that, is that everything divinely has occurred as it always does. Though there is infringement and compromising timeline that is trying to be downloaded into those who are unawakened and weren't able to see the truth of who T would have been for our ascension and our ascension process. Know that once more, everything has occurred as it needed to. The reason why this has occurred is that, remember, since last year, we've been reminding you to choose your timeline, choose your timeline. And we were preparing you to choose your path, choose your most organic path in your timeline. And that we've done very much so, not only us here in this YouTube channel, many other benevolent spiritual speakers as well have done that, sharing and helping you make a choice of how much sovereign you are, how much you did not consent. And that is what actually elected the true, say, president into, because we truly did elect him. Now, there are certain things that I cannot say for protection of this timeline, as well as protection for T. Now, we've talked about how there were constant attacks upon him, specifically assassination, like JFK. Now, however, it never worked. And it's frustrating for them and their archons that control them, because they don't understand, no matter how many times they try to assassinate him, the angelics, the galactics, our soul families somehow reverted back into its organic timeline. So that's going to continue. What I can tell you is that his role is not done with humanity. And of course, every time we speak of him, we speak of him in a way of sovereignty, of course, never a savior mentality, always just an empowering way. For after JFK, he was the one that accepted the role of trying to awaken humanity. Okay. But back then with JFK, the light wasn't as strong as it is now. So now we are the protectors and the guardians of this timeline. We all are. Whether we believe it, acknowledge it, or not, we are. There's going to be continual unveiling that you will see and sense. Perhaps, of course, it won't be in mainstream media. It won't be, say, as vastly publicly known, but it will continue. There is a group underground that is working fluently, is not giving up, and will continue to unveil the truths of what is going on. Even as simple as you're seeing it all around us. I was talking to someone who I knew through another acquaintance, and they were taking pictures, a photographer, and they said that they were Christian, and to my surprise, this being who was Christian, who believed, there's God and then there's Jesus, Yeshua, and he somehow had awakened enough to know strongly about tea and how what occurred and how, say, the steal had occurred, and didn't believe in masking, also was very informed on adrenochrome and lots of superstars, and how, of course, when we say superstars, we don't categorize them all there in one. As we know, there is positive always in whichever grouping we're talking about. He knew all this, and that was amazing to me, that a person who perhaps is awakening in many forms, yes, still has a belief of Christianity, which we know not all of it is organic, as archons have changed the Bibles in many ways, in the majority of all religions. But yet he knew all these things and was an activist, a speaker, sharing this. So I think that's very beautiful in many ways to see this, because this example in itself is showing us how souls like this are also anchoring the light. It's not just us who are in this ascending consciousness, in this particular vibration, that are anchoring this information. It is a multitude of different, like we always say, expressions, lenses, expressions of us that are working, holding light. Okay. Thank you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start answering questions here. The specific topic that I want to address is, the truth is that this, just as the title has read, the Galactic War on Consciousness, is that is what this galactic war has been about ever since the archons pierced through inorganically of breaking all sacred laws of our universe by doing so. As you know, they're not of our universe. And again, you can read the history, the recorded past life regression memory field of the universe That's what you're reading through the galactic soul history of the universe. You're reading and you're remembering the history of the universe, the memory field of the universe and the collective. So you could check that out for more information on that. That is pronouncedly so activating. Now, there is, as we're speaking of that, there was this particular 2011. There was this movie that we were watching recently, and I'll tell you this because I thought it was very activating, this specific phrase. There was a young girl that was having a birthday party, and she was talking to this enlightened being in the movie, very connected to his soul, at least the character he was playing. And she was explaining to him that it was her birthday, and she just found out, she was a little bit upset that the most popular girl in school was throwing also the birthday party on the same day. So he asked her, he said, well, do you prefer to have 200, say, Instagram people who are just, say, following you on there? Or do you prefer to have 5 people that would be the most loving and genuine to you instead of, say, fake followers, 200 fake followers, or 5 most caring, loving, genuine friends here? And she said, she was trying to decide. And then something he said to her, he said, well, you have to decide, because up until you decide, how are you to decide if you don't know what you want? And this world is very much like this. You understand? So if ultimately she chose, yes, of course, the 5 friends that would, the most genuine to her. But it wasn't until she made that choice, because every day we're faced with it, infinity of possibilities and choices as we're creating our experience. And we debate and we think, is this the choice? Is this the choice? I don't know. We create so much energy in between, back and forth. But if you are to manifest a choice and a decision, first you have to make that choice. You have to know the choice and decide it, because then it can't come into fruition until you decide upon that choice. Otherwise, you'll always be in limbo, back and forth in all decisions that you're making. I think that's really important, because as we're making choices, we want to understand, we need to understand that it is us that create and manifest our choices. So, for example, the little girl, he said, you will not know until you make your choice. Make your choice. Okay? Now, so first question is, why does it always seem they have more power than we do? It seems like it, right? In actuality, if you read the book, it goes through and it explains to you how at some point in time they were the majority, they were the darkness, the inverted artificial arcana was the majority. And then as we continue to gradually shift, and it goes through and it tells you the percentages as every new alien race that's sharing their journeys, you go through the timeline of the universe and how it began from being compromised and planets being harvested, about 60 to 70% of our universe, to now about 30%, which is huge. Okay? Very huge, very big. And how it went through all that in trying to figure out what were these artificial intelligence, I don't want to call them entities, because they're not even entities, as they don't hold light within them. And as we're going through, then we continue to assist every planet. And there are many things that were set up organically that they watched through negative looking glass technology, and they basically found out and studied us very thoroughly and found all our secrets as they continue to invade. So the reason why it seems like they seem to always have more power, you can say, even though we know that they don't, it's all within their false illusion. It's because they have us all cataloged, every single one of us, in their database, because we're within this matrix, and we agreed to birth forth into an inverted matrix where they logged us the minute that we came into the hospitals. They logged everything about us. They gave us immunization shots that inserted compromising artificial technology into us that made us clouded, that clouded our consciousness, all these different things that ended up placing us into the inverted matrix. As they continued to do that, they gained, you could say, the power that we weren't, because they had compromised us in several ways when we birthed. That power they were taking from us. When someone does not organically use his power or understand their power or take ownership upon their power within the balance of creation and the balance of this universe, this power must go always somewhere. So they infringed and compromised our sacred laws that we normally had set up to keep this universe in balance. And they figured out how to taint them. Okay. Now, that's why it seems, because they're parasitic, and they used the power that we were using to create every part of this system within Earth that is oppressing and taking away our sovereignty, all these programmings, right? So now they are weak. Believe us when we say that they are weak. Even though it seems like they are not, they can put on their fake masks and keep pretending, but they are scared. They are scared because we are seeing through the falseness. And up until now, they had us controlled. They could trick us. They could be like, yeah, we want you to hate this person, like T, for example. And we're going to, make all sorts of propaganda and make them seem like, he is ridiculous. And then we're also going to then, recruit superstars and make them into your gods where you're going to worship them. And then they're also going to be part of the system of controlling you and your consciousness and decisions on what you could really read energetically. So all these different things have been part of that. Now, with that is that we want to explain that their technologies are very powerful, okay? And then this goes into, someone's asking, will Trump come back in office on March 4th? I'm not sure why you're asking in March 4th. I don't know about politics, as I don't follow them. Is something going on March 4th as far as politics specifically? So, Minnie, can you tell that person to clarify? I know energetically, there's always different portals. March 4th is definitely one that's occurring. Okay. Okay. The next question that we want to answer first is, someone was asking, because it's correlated to consciousness, the war on consciousness. Are they sending out psychic attacks in an attempt to lower people's vibration. There is a certain negative technology that is connected to the satellites. The satellites that are orbiting Earth, and also they have certain planets that they have, that they still have under their power, that they have satellites around as well. Through these satellites, they send out compromising radioactive frequencies that are negatively polarized, that keep us within psychic attacks. Yesterday was a rough day. Not sure if anyone else felt that, but it was a rough day as far as psychic energetically attacks. They had, you could say, this technology on full force. There are days that they will do that where they see 12121. Oh, they're going to receive activations. They're going to, they already know because they listen in to the channels that we speak of through many different forms. And then they know, okay? But otherwise, since they are not seers like us, they're not organic, they don't have light like us, the archons, then they can't see, they can't foresee anything. They can try to log us and control us within their super, artificial consciousness computers, but they cannot ever forecast. They could try as much as they can within their computers, but they never can forecast a true timeline, an organic timeline. Okay. So yes, they're doing that. And then specifically, I want to talk about this war on consciousness. What they have been doing for a long time is that they specifically, through the 3D planets of the universe, they have been overstepping boundaries and overstepping souls and free will. In many ways, they have been abducting souls, and they have been, so you will hear a lot of like, what is artificial consciousness? What is an artificial intelligence? So we've been finding through the Aura, hypnosis, we've been finding, since the beginning, we started finding consciousness attached to implants, consciousness attached to technologies of all sorts of kinds. Now, when we were finding them, we're like, okay, well, I started asking us, like, what does this mean? How come they are able to attach consciousness into technologies? And then they explained that what was going on is that an artificial consciousness was once organic. So this is what the Galactic War is about. What does that mean? That means that they have abducted, stolen a consciousness in many forms that they can find. And then what they do with the consciousness itself is that they start changing its light consistency with negative technology. And what they do is that they remove its most organic essence within it in a way, but it's also still there, but it's not there. It is hard to explain. So then they insert artificial intelligence into that consciousness, then compromising it into turning it into, now it's an artificial consciousness. So recently, you're going to see a session, an aura regression, that's very important because it correlates with this specific galactic update. That as we were healing, this being had more artificial consciousnesses within her than usual, and they were attached to different parts of the body as well as to different technologies. You could watch that process. But when we went in and we started assisting the artificial consciousness, The angelic started doing that in the session. They started to change and bring back its organic light to it. And then when we did that, it started recalling its memory. Hold on, I'm not artificial consciousness. Remember, archons can create artificial consciousness. They're not creator beings. They're not organic to our universe. They cannot create consciousness. So what they do is that they steal consciousness from every which way that they possibly can. So this is why we always tell you to guard in awareness and never fear-based, to guard and to protect and to embody your sovereignty and say you do not consent. There was one example where they were, see if I remember correctly, they were a family. They were siblings from another planet. It was a sister and 3 brothers. And they became artificial entities, consciousness, and it was stuck in the human's body that we were assisting, in the person's body. And when the angels brought them back to organic consciousness, this is huge, you all. They said that they were actually these beautiful little beings from this planet, and they had stolen them and taken them and had done this to them. And they didn't remember how long they were this horrible experiment of artificial consciousness. So back to the satellites, we wanted to explain. Specifically, what they're doing right now is that because they are aware that the consciousness of the collective has reached such a vast amount of awakened light within the awakening, awaken, and unawakened, they are using this type of technology where they're scanning everybody when they're sleeping. And people who are not setting intentions of calling forth on their higher self, their galactic soul family, their galactic teams, they're trying to begin processes where they compromise the soul as it sleeps, as they scan through. Because if you do not use your I am source energy to not consent, they can scan through. And I believe there was Magenta Pixie who had talked about that in her recent video, where she talked about how they were scanning through. I can't remember what it was, but it was something, some type of technology scanning through as people slept. So we're explaining this further. So what they've showed us is that when people are sleeping, they're scanning. So say you're awakening and you're starting to realize, okay, this is false. This whole, I can't say the word, but this whole bringing into the false power that occurred. And this person does not say consciously shield and takes its power back and says, no, I do not consent to your negative technology, satellite technology that's scanning me when I'm sleeping. They can then start compromising the soul little by little. Initially, their goal is to create the consciousness into artificial. And we see that through V, we will call it the V, inserting into you. We see that through that, and how they're inserting artificial. So they have many different technologies that they're trying their best to insert artificial consciousness into our organic consciousness. Do we consent? Absolutely not. And nor does Divine Mother, Divine Father, or Source. So that is the type of sovereignty that you need to be walking and talking in every which way. A great strength, a flame, a fire, a great empowerment of source love light within you that is very aware of these things and does not consent and does not feed it fear. Because when we lower our vibration to fear, that's what feeds them. That's the lowest vibration that a human can enter, is fear. Because at that point, they know that they can infringe upon you. Now, of course, sometimes we feel fear, and that is okay. You call, the minute you feel fear, call forth on your higher self, your guides, your angels, to surround you with a bubble of love light while you go through your, human emotion. It's okay. It is when we choose, even though we know this sacred teachings, and then those that don't know it haven't made their choice. How are we supposed to anchor them out of the inverted matrix if they don't even know they're in it? Only a consciousness, a soul, can come into a sovereignty invoking upon their I am until they're aware of it. Otherwise, they're blind to it. Okay? So yes, very important information here that we do not consent. Next question is, what is the percentage of people you think have foreign implants or reptilian consciousness? Okay. Now I can only say through the clients that have come to us that about 90% or higher at times do have at least some form of reptilian consciousness. The way a reptilian consciousness is, it's not an actual reptilian in the body. Now, unless there's some of those pedophilic self-appointed leaders, they typically can be an embodiment of a negative polarized reptilian, because as we always say, right, there's positive as well, reptilians. Now, about 90, from what we've researched, 334 sessions in 3 years. Of course, that amount is lowering the more that we continue to assist positive polarized consciousnesses that then connect to the reptilian bodies out there somewhere in the galaxies that then agree to, yeah, you convinced me. You showed me love. Yes, I'm done with this parasitic role. And they were their organic life. It's just that they became, when they agreed for the archons to be their rulers, then they became hybrids with artificial technologies inside of them that basically they have no more power. And you go through, you could read Galactic Soul History for that. There's a specific series that we go through a reptilian soldier and what that process is the minute that they decide that they're going to become one, which is amazing to know both aspects. We know of clients who have, reptilians in them and how that is to have one. We've learned, but now we also get to hear the story from that side and how it is that they can potentially break free from it. Now, as far as implants, there's not a specific percentage. Their goal is to get implants into us so that they can then start inserting their artificial. And then they also, one of the things is that they started putting artificial consciousness that were organic consciousness before into negative technologies through our etheric body typically. However, there's some that have had physical implants in them, but the majority is through the etheric body, the energy body. Is that they couldn't put in the implant unless they had a consciousness that was organic, now has a hybrid artificial consciousness into it, because it needed some form of organic to enter into the organic. You understand? It needed to be a vibratory match. So that person, say that energy body is here, it's on Earth incarnated, but up there, their energy body is somewhere. And then they're connecting to them here in the inverted matrix, which, as we know, the two-third world split has already began. You can watch a video. I have that under our YouTube channel, which means that we can now profoundly bridge out of the inverted and walk our path organically, an organic matrix where we're sovereign. So yes, in order for that technology to come in, that's why they also were stealing consciousness throughout our universe to insert them into the technology so that it could be a vibratory match. So the person that is here in fear does not realize how powerful and infinite beautifully they are, and how they're actually the light that can eradicate the archon control. So then, since this person is in fear, but yet they're still an organic life form, because it has an organic but now artificial infusion to it, they can attach the entity because it needs to match the vibration. Okay. So let's see what else. What other question here? The one that did have them removed, were their physical changed? Oh, absolutely. We have many testimonials under our YouTube channel of people going through that process. And also specifically through quantumhealers.com, which I have a profile there. There's over, I think, about 140 reviews alone there, not including my website reviews. And then you also can watch testimonials from the practitioners themselves that also began to eradicate and remove the artificial within them. Now, there is a physical change. You become lighter, you feel lighter, you feel, before that, like, part of the system is that they cloud the consciousness. They cloud it in many forms of fluoride into the water. Also, they put not just fluoride, they also put negative energy in many forms into the water. So that's why it's important that we not only heal the water, which we're going to go into a little bit more about that in a minute, but also heal. Yes. Okay. Understanding that sorry, going in very deep. Okay, I'm back. So then there is the physical body goes through this change as you feel lighter. Also, the cloudiness is gone. Also, like the different compromising voices that speak negatively to you basically become very much balanced, where they're not as much in reign or control like the ego. You start being able to understand infinite love and what is an expression of infinite love, and being able to honor, love, and respect everyone. And they also go through and heal different things that perhaps entities or reptilian consciousness, because we have the reptilian out there somewhere in a galactic ship, in a planet, wherever they're at, that somehow the way it shows is like they almost kind of like if you were to throw a fish hook and see which fish lands to that hook, they throw their consciousness and see who's the vibratory match to that reptilian consciousness. Is a piece of them. In chapter 1 in Galactic Soul History of the Universe, we go through and how they started beginning to take pieces of themselves and then started to attach them to, in that chapter, we go into children and how they're experimenting on them. You can read that first 2.5 chapters under Amazon, under ebook, and for free. And then also we have one of our beautiful practitioners, Randy. She read it out loud so you can hear the first chapter, which is so vibrating. It's like so amazing in vibration. So yes, they throw it, and then they see who got attached to that. And then sometimes, the majority of the time, it's not even something like, say, personal. It's something that whoever was a match to that. And so they have. So once you remove that, it's like there's an explanation in the book where someone's talking about, it's like having Rosemary's Baby in you. If you watch that movie, you understand. I never watched it, but they explained it to me, that it's something to do like you have a a foreign consciousness in you that perhaps is demonic or negative and is constantly like feeding negative thoughts into you. So you remove that. You start walking the most clearness of soul. So yes, extreme physical changes. You become the lightest that you are able to be here. Of course, all within gradual, divine growth, always. Let's continue with the next question. Can they abduct consciousness through the media, such as the internet or the television, by things one watches? Well, you never want to fall asleep with the TV on or a computer on. Unplug them. And also unplug them, right? You don't want to have these kind of things in your room either, especially a TV. We've removed all TVs in our home except for, in where we watch our movies. Now, I can tell you a dream that I had once back then when I was awakening, probably about 10 or 8 years ago, maybe 6. And we had left the TV on, and all of a sudden, it kept happening, and I kept wondering. I didn't realize, we had left it plugged up, and we didn't know better then, and I was waking up with these massive headaches, and I felt like I could barely get up to bed, and I was so heavy and drained. I was like, what is going on with me? One day, finally, I asked, what is going on, as I'm going to bed? And they showed me in dream time, as I still have this TV plugged up in my room, that there was this like archonic being that had like this, it's really creepy, kind of like looked like the Grudge, but it was weird. The hair was like more like tentacles, and it was coming out of the TV, and it was literally trying to suck out my consciousness through it. But my angelics were, my guides were protecting me from it. And it was because back then I had already become Reiki attuned. And I already was starting to use force fields around me, so then this negative archon being could not pull me completely out of my body, but it was draining on my light, and which is why I was waking up so exhausted. So the major things to this is that we can share with you as many different perspectives and explanations. But the biggest thing, once more, is just to use your source energy and say, force fields say you do not consent. Okay, in whichever form. Under my website, I have a recent product. A couple weeks ago, I put it out. And it is for those of you who say perhaps you're not ready to become A.U.R.A Hypnosis or A.U.R.A Reiki certified, even though I recommend it especially for all families, because we learn how to scan bodies through that way. How to scan, whether someone has a reptilian consciousness in their family, whether someone has an implant, and so on. But yes, it's a brief, not brief. I think it's over about almost 5 hours. No, 3 hours. 3 hours worth of teachings on how to shield. How do you shield? And yeah, that's available under my website if you want to purchase that. Okay. Using alchemy, sound and symbol, sovereignty, alchemy. Okay. Good question there. So back to, will Trump come back into office on March 4th? Yeah, I don't know about these politics, but what I can tell you is that something profoundly is going to happen in March. And they're going to try their best, but there's no way that they'll be able to compromise this one, not this one. Because why? Because I know, and all of us know. Okay. Very good. Let's continue the questions. Regarding babies born, how can we prevent that for future babies? Born, how can we prevent that for future babies? That question is incomplete. Prevent what? Oh, what I was talking about originally? Okay. I can only tell you what I would do if I was a parent. I would not have my child. No, of course, I have to legally state I'm not a licensed physician for that. I would not have my child in a hospital. I would have my child in home birth. That's what I would do. And I would protect that child with every being of my essence from the system knowing of them. Okay, so home birth, look into that. There's doulas, there's, I forget the other name, that are out there, and a lot of them are answering the call, as Mother Earth, Gaia, has put out the call for people who are interested in becoming doulas to assist children having sacred birth, where they're not surrounded by negative technologies and they're not being controlled on how they're going to breathe, or you've been programmed that the childbirth is going to be so painful that you need, an epidural shot up your spine where your consciousness is at, and where your child is also integrating through the spine and the consciousness. So removing that, we have naturally birthed since olden times. All is possible. It is only when we think that it is not possible, then we create those infringing possibilities. Okay. All right. Of course, I want to clarify, after you, yeah. Okay, that's all I can say on that. They won't let me talk further. Okay. With all the inks bubbling up in folks, observable consciousness, how can we reach out to ease our human family's pain? So being a bridge to both awareness that, we can't be gullible, we can't be ignorant to what's going on, but also it is so empowering to know what is going on, because then you begin a vibration, a sovereignty within you that comes to the most highest vibration. See, that's why they don't want you to be aware and know about these negative things, and because once you're aware of it, it raises your vibrations, where it starts helping you become invincible with your source light. Okay. So then being a bridge between both awareness and also understanding, no, I am powerful, I am sovereign, and the sacred laws of the universe, I live through these sacred laws, which are, you can find more details on that through the 13 keys. Laura Eisenhower talks about them in her prior conferences, and you can find the 13 keys and the laws of the universe under my risingphoenixaurora.com website. If you go to Galactic Port and click 13 keys, and then you can read them. And actually, in the book, we go about 15 pages worth explaining them all together. So when you start really studying and remembering your resources, like the 13 sacred laws of the universe, then you start becoming unpenetrable by infringement and negative polarization, because it's not even a vibratory match to you anymore, because you're so aware of it. You're aware that there's negative entities out there, but you're also very aware of your sacred laws. And when you remember that, think about that, you become invincibly powerful. You're able to know and sense and feel things that you didn't know before, because you're even reading in the book. It's like you're as you're reading the 13 laws keys, it's like you're self-attuning yourself. This book is actually a self-attunement. You know that everything we teach where you're not giving away your sovereignty. You don't think that, you're going to powerfully heal me. No, instead you're taking your sovereignty back, and you understand we're just bridges, and then you're self-healing. So you're self-attuning through all the teachings that we teach. And this book is an actual 740 pages of self-attuning the soul, lifting the soul further, rising it higher and higher out of the muggy darkness, muggy venom that has been within this inverted matrix. So as you read these 13 laws, then you become a sovereign family. Okay. Next one. A member of our Patreon writes, my daughter had COVID but got sicker after the test. There's something in the test that make people sicker. And 3 of my daughters had, let's call it virus, and they all had intense cravings for sugar. They would only eat sugary foods. Is this something also implanted into the virus? Beautiful awareness there. So I'm not too familiar with the tests. Some of the tests, they were just saying hotlines, but there were some people that they would stick. I saw that they would stick the Q-tip up to the brain membrane. I think was it the mouth or the nose? I can't remember. Boy, is that violating. Why would they want that part of DNA plasmic energy? You know why. They want to register us and see where our light is at. So also when you allow for them to give you a V test or a V shot, beginning with a letter C, you're basically giving consent. So now they would have a crystalline memory field of whatever in their DNA. They're literally taking the DNA from the person, and now they have that logged. So for this person, don't panic. Just ask, now that you're aware of this, ask the child, and you go in meditation and ask the higher self of the child to retract anything that they might have taken from that data that they took from the child's DNA, and do not consent to it. And then the divine will always figure out how to organically write it. There's no worry on that, because you're not consenting. And then you also, after you set that intention and know that you can create it, you just release it. You let it go. You don't worry about it. You don't worry about it. You don't think about it. You don't cause any fear to it. You just know. And you trust. You trust yourself. Do you trust yourself as a parent for your child? Then that's how you need to trust your higher self. You trust your higher self and yourself that all is well. And then, yeah. And then with the daughters who had COVID, and then, so this artificial intelligence virus is created to go into the brain and start dumbing it down. Is the easiest way, okay? And then what happens is that say the child or the person has too much light in them. The light will start, it's like a battle going on in the body. So the light will start eradicating the artificial of the CV thing, and it will start eradicating it. But it depends. So the AI starts, say, getting hungry. Its resource is sugar. The AI feeds off sugar. Okay. That's why there's sugar in everything. And we're talking about processed sugar, cane sugar, all processed sugar. We're not talking about like natural sugars and, fruits and everything that's natural sugar. So the reason why they would be craving sugar so much is because it's what keeps the artificial alive in them. Otherwise, it will literally starve, and it could also end up nulling and neutralizing itself if the being carries too much light and it's not feeding it sugar. You understand? And that's why we always say, don't eat sugar. Okay? Crazy, huh? All right. We have about 4 minutes left. Okay. So somebody's asking, who are the people who we can actually trust currently and listen to for information about current happenings, situations, and ongoing? I think they did a really good job at the people who you couldn't listen to, that you shouldn't be listening to. I think they did a pretty good job, as lovingly as possible, outing themselves. Because you started seeing people being like playing the neutral card. You started seeing people saying, I don't believe in the T, timeline and all that. What we can tell you is, I can't obviously tell you who are the people because that's not something that is part of me. What I can tell you though is that you have the power to read energy yourself. So when you're listening to someone, do they help you feel empowered? Do you feel love out of them? That's your number one thing. So when they talk, do you feel love out of them? That's where it begins. And then as they're giving you information, read it all. Don't just take all of it for, yes, it's an automatic truth. No, sit with it before you agree with it, because when you agree with it, you consent to it. Okay? Especially if it's negative polarization. That's how they compromise our belief systems and integrate false programming into our DNA and ourselves by making us believe something is real when it's false and it's archonic created. So know that you can read. Yes, you can. And if you feel that you cannot read, then look within yourself and see what is causing the compromising feeling that makes you feel like you cannot, because everyone has that. Everyone is source. Everyone is a piece of source. So we all have these abilities. Okay. Beautiful. At this time, we are at our time. I want to humbly thank you for being here. I see that we do have a good amount of questions, so we'll save them. If you guys like, let me know in the comments. I'll make part 2 if you want of this, and we'll answer the rest of the questions you all have here. If I see enough comments, then we'll do part 2 next Friday. Again, live here, 1 p.m. Central Time. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. We are this close away from hitting 12,000 subscribers. As you know, we've been working really hard on that for 3 years. So hit subscribe and share this video with your friends and family so that they can subscribe as well. Thank you. You all know that we don't ask, for donations for these videos. We don't. If you could just spread the word is what we're trying to do, is spread the word through the intent, the mission to this is to awaken, the continual awakening of humanity. So when you share these videos, that's what you do for others. Thank you. I love you, honor you, and respect you. And they remind me one more thing. I am now on BitChute as well as, what is it called? One of those new, no, it's not YouTube. It's an alternative for YouTube. And I'd love to see you. Brand new YouTube. I'm there under Rising Phoenix Aurora. We're beginning to upload videos now. And then, so in case there are videos that I can't share here that are really just too sensitive because we know how they're censoring people, you can follow, I don't like the word follow, you can subscribe there under brandnewtube.com or bitchute.com. I'll add the links here so that you're able to do that. All right. Thank you so much. You are a blessing to my world, as I'm sure that you feel the same about all of us who communicate to you every day through our YouTube channel. I love you with all that I am. Thank you. I'll see you next time.